page 28. Yeshikoah, thank you, Hazaniel. Great to have you here with us all throughout these holidays. You can close your books. Also, before I begin the sermon, see what happens. I'll have to use my camp voice, which I do. Is Libby Oren here, by the way? Okay, so everyone turn around. Libby's waving. She's our Shitshin. She's on the year of service in Israel between high school and the army. She's with us all year. And
turned on the light.
she turned off the lights. I don't know if the sound system will come back on, hopefully. But she does not, you cannot hire her to babysit, but you can definitely invite her to dinner. So, anyway, she'll be with us all year. She's working in the GON, the Big Safe Fair. We're teaching some adult confirmation classes. All right, we're on. It's going to be tough. Hang on one second, because we're trying to get this right. Alright, it's not just us, it's the whole block, so here we go. Camp boys, how we doing? I can't really see that well. Tommy, can you hear me in the back?
Yeah.
All right. Good. Alright, so when I was a student rabbi in Great Falls, Montana, a bunch of families had gathered ready to begin the Passover Seder, but it also happened to be the same night as the NCAA men's basketball tournament finals. Now, it was a famous game. It was the game where the University of Michigan's Chris Webber called a timeout that they didn't have. And I know some of you might not know what I'm talking about here, but if you do that, it's a technical foul, and that contributed to their losing the game. In any case, one of the individuals there, at the time for the Seder had come, game was still going on. He said, Rabbi, can we delay the Seder by maybe just 5 minutes to finish the game? And while you're at it, can you please utter a prayer for the University of Michigan? Which I find especially funny today, now that my son graduated from Ohio State. But I turned to the man and I said, have I taught us nothing as the student rabbi here about God's role in the universe, about the commandment of not taking God's name in vain? Do you honestly believe that God would care about something as trivial as a basketball game? Baseball, possibly. But basketball, never. Shana Tova, welcome to 5786, my 25th year as a rabbi. So, on Erev Rosh Hashana every year I introduce the theme that will be connecting all my sermons. And in consonance with the opening story, the theme this year is actually sports, and more specifically, Bay Area sports teams. Now, I imagine some of you are shaking your heads already. First of all, you may not know anything about sports. Second of all, in a year as heavy as this one has been, with issues like raging, increasing anti-Semitism, with Israel's ongoing post-October 7th war in Gaza and its increasing moral complications, with America's free speech and democracy seemingly in danger, I'm going to talk about sports. Isn't that a little light? And don't you talk too much about sports anyway, Rabbi? Definitely the answer to number 2 is yes. But in terms of it being too light, let me explain. First of all, the theme is not the same as the subject. You're going to hear a few stories about sports like the one I just told, but none of the sermons are actually about sports. Secondly, although the issues are certainly heavy, and they're only increasing, anti-Semitism, the Israel issues, the democracy issues, I kind of feel like I said everything I had to say about them last year when the theme was comfort, as well as on Shabbatot throughout the year. If I had a magic answer to give you, or even a way of giving you hope on these issues, I would do that. But I really don't. Next, I don't think you need to come here to hear more about current events and politics. Now, it's not that I never talk about current events, and especially anti-Semitism in Israel. I talk about a lot. But my primary job as a rabbi is as a teacher. It's to utilize Jewish stories and Jewish texts to bring inspiration to us, or at least to teach us a little something. And so, that's what I intend to do. And finally, I want it to be a sweet new year. No matter how heavy the world is, we have the right to have joy in this world. So for better and worse, Bay Area sports teams it is. Now, we're going to start tonight with the A's and the B's, the athletics and the ballers. I'm going to tell you the sports teams for the rest of Rosh Hashana Yom Kippur, but not the subject. You're going to have to come if you want to hear that. And maybe we'll even have power. Tomorrow we're talking about the Giants. Second day of Rosh Hashana, 49ers. Kol Nidre Warriors and Valkyries. And Yom Kippur morning, the formerly Oakland Raiders. So again, you'll have to come to hear what they're about. But I can't give a sermon that has baseball at all in it without mentioning the connection of baseball to the founding family of Temple Beth Abraham. Some of you know this already, but Temple Beth Abraham was established in 1907 when Bertha Berkovich gave a bunch of Hungarian Jews some money and said, you can start a synagogue, I'm going to give you this money if you name it after my husband. His name was Abraham. Thank God. And so we became Beth Abraham. Abraham and Bertha Berkovich had a great nephew named Sam. Some of us had the privilege of knowing Sam, one of the kindest human beings you will ever meet. His family owned a furniture store, Berkovich and Sons. That furniture store sponsored baseball teams. They were called Berkovich's All-Stars. They were the equivalent of travel ball today, except before every parent thought their kid was going to earn a scholarship to college. These were real All-Star teams. They produced over 50 major leaguers, several hundred minor leaguers, and college athletes. They had a Hall of Famer, Frank Robinson. They had Kurt Flood, who challenged the reserve clause in baseball, which eventually resulted in the right to free agency. They had Tommy Harper, Veda Pinson, Ned Yost, and many, many more, many that even I have not heard of. Frank Robinson once said about Sam, he took the knife out of my hand and put a ball and glove in it instead. That's how indebted he was to Sam for his mentorship. And so now it's on to the A's and the B's, the athletics and the ballers. 3 brief lessons, 2 from the A's, 1 from the B's. Okay. Lesson number 1. It's important and good to be yourself, especially if yourself is a real character and different. The A's were a team of characters. They were unabashedly Oakland and unashamedly themselves. They were the opposite, no offense to anybody, but of the New York Yankees, with their pinstripes and rules against facial hair. The A's had all kinds of facial hair. They had Raleigh Finger's famous handlebar mustache. They had the scruffy beard of Catfish Hunter. They were a team that was brash, Reggie Jackson, also his tape measure home runs, and Bash, the Bash brothers, Jose Canseco and Mark McGuire. They were a team of blues, Vita Blue and Blue Moon Odom. They were a team of Billy Ball, that's Billy Martin, and Moneyball, that's Billy Beane. They were a team whose owner, Charles Finley, was as colorful as the bright green and gold uniforms that the team wore. He had the craziest promotions. He had Hot Pants Day, where if you were female and you wore hot pants, you got in free. He had Bald Men Day, where if you were bald and you were a man, you got in free. That was a joke on the Red Sox bald manager at the time. They had a 16-year-old bat boy named Stanley Burrell, who they gave the title of Executive Vice President to. He then changed his name a few years later to MC Hammer. Yes, that MC Hammer. The A's were all about being characters and having character. As most of you know, I'm a Giants fan, but even I have to admit that those A's teams, those Oakland Athletics, always seem to have more characters. Unfortunately, as we get to lesson number 2, those athletics have left us for greener pastures, theoretically, in Las Vegas by way of Sacramento. And it's not so much bittersweet as it is just kind of bitter. People are angry and they're sad because of the way they left, that they left at all, that the greed that seemed to be part of it, the price gouging over the last few years. And lesson number 2 is that sometimes it's okay to express your anger and your sadness. This is obviously not a baseball lesson. This is a life lesson. Whether it's at what's going on in this country or in this world, whether it's what's happening to Jews locally and elsewhere, whether it means a loved one has been diagnosed with a critical illness, whether it's complicated relationships with colleagues or family members, sometimes you have to express sadness and anger. I don't know how many of you remember the Pixar movie Inside Out, but it did an amazing job of portraying this. The little girl in the film, they told her, be happy, smile, everything will be okay. But she had real emotions of anger and sadness. And until she learned to integrate them into herself, she couldn't be whole. So that's lesson number 2. Sometimes you actually have to express your anger and your sadness. So lesson number 3 is a form of, if life gives you lemons, make lemonade. It's kind of the opposite. Sometimes you have to move on. If you can't get A's, you got to learn to be satisfied with B's. You can't see it, it's an Oakland Ballers gather. The Oakland B's, or Ballers, is obviously an ironic take on the name of the A's. And the A's are a major league team. The Ballers are the most minor of minor league teams. Just a little history of baseball. The structure of baseball, there's major league teams like the A's and the Giants, there's AAA, AA, 2 levels of single A, rookie league, and below that are the independent leagues. And that's what the Ballers are in. They're in the Pioneer League. But they embrace that. They embrace the blessing of being themselves. First of all, just yesterday, they won the championship of the Pioneer League. They embrace the city. Just like the old days, they're unabashedly Oakland and unashamedly themselves. And they too have all kinds of crazy promotions. Their business model is actually called Radical Fan Participation. They have 4,000 owner investors. They have games where they let the fans decide who gets brought in, what relief pitcher gets brought in, or whether to send in a pinch hitter or not. The fans actually get to decide that stuff. They have crazy contests between innings, races, food eating contests. They've even been known to let a rabbi give a Devar Torah between innings. It's true. They have a mascot that's a possum named Scrappy. Okay? We may not be major league, the A's may be gone, we may live in the shadow of San Francisco, but darn it, we're scrappy, and we're proud of it. We're a blessing to the city. We're a blessing to ourselves. We want to be happy with our radical fan hospitality. We want radical fan engagement. We are a blessing. Speaking of which, I want to tell one final story about blessings. It's the same story I told when I gave the Devar Torah on Jewish Heritage Day on Sunday in the summer. It's from Midrash Rabbah, Genesis Rabbah. See, the letters of the Aleph Bet were standing around arguing over which letter should be the one that gets to begin the Torah. And Aleph said, should be me. I'm the first letter of the alphabet. I should, of course, begin the Torah. And God said to Aleph, I'm sorry. You're a very important letter, and as a result, I'm going to let you read off the 10 Commandments. But I can't have you start the Torah, because Aleph is the letter that begins the word arur, which means cursed, and I can't have the Torah begin with curses. No, the Torah has to begin with blessings. The Hebrew word for blessings is brachot, and what is the letter that begins the Hebrew word brachot? Why, bet, of course, B. My hope and my prayer for each and every one of you is that this will be a year, despite all the darkness that we find in the world, it will be a year where we learn to count our blessings. Shana Tova. Now, I was going to do a song, but I need the words. I can't sing them well enough. That's a sign from the universe. I'll do it on Shabbat Shuvah this Friday. Hopefully we'll have power tomorrow. Thanks for being here. That's it.